Hey, 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 it's the phenomenal STEMist. How is everyone doing? How is everyone doing? All right. Adam, Mr. Adam Maycock, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing wonderful, Maya. Dr. Byfield.
Listen, everybody come on in. Hey, Bernadette, how are you? People are coming in. It
Hey,
is so
Bernadette.
it's so good to speak with you. I'm sure there are people from here in Orlando, Florida, excited to see you. They have probably haven't seen you in a long time. But this is hold on, sorry. I'm trying to share onto multiple pages. Just hold on with me. Yep, there we go. And we're on Phenomenal STEMist YouTube. Hi YouTube, how you doing? Rochelle Harris is in the house. Tell me where you're calling from or writing from or seeing from or viewing from. I see
Right.
about 8 of you on here between YouTube and Facebook. All right. Welcome, welcome. This is Phenomenal STEMist. I'm here talking with Mr. Adam Makeup. He is a CEO in the health system in Illinois. Um, and I'm so proud to say that. Like, today we're talking about how to become a CEO of a hospital. So how's it going? Mr. Adam Makeup is married, wife Kaja, and three daughters. He is a
Three dogs.
yeah, three daughters. He's
Got
a
to say
girl
that twice.
dad. He's a girl dad. People are watching from Atlanta. Okay, hey Lorna, how are you? Listen, I'm gonna get right into it because I want people to see this end game. You are basically what many African American men need to see.
Hmm.
You exist. CEOs, black CEOs of hospitals do exist, and we're going to talk about your process and your journey to become that. So I have one question. The first question, I have five questions really, but the first question is, when did you fall in love with your discipline? When did you fall in love with your discipline? Yes, he does have beautiful daughters, Bernadette.
Thank you,
Yes.
Bernadette. No, that's a great starting question, Maya. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for this forum. It's a really important um, opportunity to tell stories, to share stories, to educate our community, and to be able to set an example for people. And obviously, the vision that you had of phenomenal STEMists and many other things that you are dabbling in, if you will, I think just really sets the stage for people to become informed and see, particularly with the young people that you started out talking about, that they can accomplish the goals that they have in their life. So thank you
Absolutely.
for the forum and the opportunity to share a little bit about my story. So yeah, the mine is really. How much time do we have again? Because I could go really long.
Listen, we go as long as you want. I've seen as short as 20 minutes and as long as 50 minutes. That's usually
Okay,
around the
okay.
range. But it's five questions. You can is what you want to do with
Well, we'll
that little
just go with it.
questions.
We'll just go with
Yeah,
it. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, my story was interesting when it comes to, how did I fall in love with, my field of study. I was a marketing major at Oakwood in college, at Oakwood University. And, if you would have asked me as a freshman coming in with a marketing degree, what did I want to do? I thought I wanted to be work in the creative side of marketing, and do advertisement and promotions and commercials and billboards and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I had the opportunity to get exposed to healthcare did I find a passion for something that was a little bit, it was deeper inside of me, if you will, that I just didn't know where it would start to play out. So as I like to say, it's complicated,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
my interests were service. So my was a pastor; he's a retired pastor now, and so service and um, taking care of the needs of your community. Growing up, seeing that in my father, both as a minister and my mother in partnership in ministry with him, there was something that was just inside of me that wanted to be um, uh, continue down that thread, and I just didn't know where that would play out, at the time. So even in marketing, I always thought that I would find myself down the path of working for some church organization, but using that background, if you will. And then, the faith base, my faith was always important to me. So I had opportunities to work in for-profit areas, things like that, and sports and entertainment. Worked for the NBA for a few years with their development league, and it just didn't fit that mold of, again, what was deep inside of me of my callings or my love, if you will. And then I also had interest in business. So I was always interested in ideas and business ideas. The first lawn service business that you have in high school, it's like, man, I see how this works,
Yeah.
supply and demand, and
You probably you
so
probably get you probably clean up as a shoveler up in Chicago. I hear
yeah,
it's snowing like
exactly,
crazy.
exactly. Those are my three girls. We're gonna have a little snow shoveling business. Get them started down those paths early. Um, but so you have these interests, and then not until I got to my junior year in college did I get exposed from Dr. Gunn to the Adventist health system and healthcare. And so I went and did an internship. Actually, it was the last day that they were there to do internships for the summer. She was like,
Mm,
"Adam, did you go interview with Adventist Health System?" And I was like, "No,
wow.
I don't think I had," but went, did the interview, got accepted into the summer internship program. And that, when you say, when did you first fall in love with your field of study? Really, the the shift for me, more than a field of study than it was what industry and what environment did I see myself continuing on in, was through that experience, that summer internship
Mm.
back in 2002, working in marketing and physician relations, and that really catapulted the shift, if you will, in my mind, from just kind of this marketing idea to an industry that met all needs, from a service, from a mission standpoint, my faith, and the chance to just practice those business principles as well.
Yeah, that's very important. I hope you hear that, guys. It was his opportunity to get an internship, and I think that
Hmm.
is so key in college, and it happens around junior year, right?
Right,
Where you've been studying for the first 2 years, and you're looking for opportunities for experience. It is so important to get those experiences through internships, and I'm so glad that your professor really pointed you in the right direction. There are a lot of
right.
students that don't have that. So shout out to HBCUs, Oakwood College University. Right, we are both alumni of Oakwood College. This is where Adam received his bachelor's in right, BBA in marketing, and then
In
you went
marketing, yeah.
on to do your master's in business administration. I think in finance, right?
And finance, yeah, right.
So tell me about the tools you use to discipline yourself to
Hmm.
succeed in those careers. So you're this is STEM, phenomenal STEMist, but what I really want to promote is especially the M part, right? It's the math. Not to say that you do a lot of math in finance,
Right.
but there is a good amount of math in finance, and I think a lot of men are attracted to finance. And so you can listen, guys, when I say STEM, it doesn't mean you have to necessarily be in science and technology. For those of you who want to work in healthcare, you don't necessarily have to be a nurse or a doctor. Here you have Mr. Adam Makeup talking about transitioning from marketing and finance to becoming a CEO of a hospital system, right? So, how did you? What tools did you use to discipline yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great question, and just before going there, I think it's an important acknowledgement to the internship comment that you made earlier on. That was my fourth. I'm thinking about your audience in the sense
Right.
of not just the questions that we have, but just kind of a little bit of a segue.
Mhm.
That I did four different internships in college. So I
Gotcha.
worked for a bank, I
Mhm.
worked for NASA, I worked for the NBA, and then I worked for Adventist Health System. Advent Health now is their name. And so I got a chance to get exposure across many different areas that was, again, helped refine really where my interest and where my passions would be. And
Mhm.
so when went to Orlando, started my master's program. So I think we're going to get into this a little bit later as well. But um, math to your M in STEM was not my strongest area. Like
Mhm.
of all the things, it wasn't a strength of mine, and had to really work hard throughout my educational experience to understand and to really create really to the point of your question, the discipline that was necessary to be able to succeed in that space. And that was really the big reason why I chose finance as a focus in my master's program. I wanted to fully lean in to, like, if this is something that's challenging you, let's
Wow.
meet it head on, because
Wow.
it is an area that in business you can't ignore. You can't avoid it. It is just a critical component. I mean, it's not the component, but it's a major component to all business activity, if you will. And so, my major or focus in finance in my master's program really was one that was driven out of that
Wow.
desire to strengthen an area that I felt like I was weak in. And obviously, it's paid off quite a bit at this point. But when it comes to the discipline that was just really necessary, was one, as I reflect back even on the time that I was in school, I had to give up a lot of things.
Mhm.
So I remember I was working full time and in a master's program, and you just, yeah, you want to go out to the movies or go hang out with friends in different settings, or it's you're in a professional career. You're done with kind of the college life. You want to live kind of that
That
life a
life.
little bit, but you had to really just separate yourself from maybe where the norm or where most people were headed, and say, I still have a focus that is important. Yes, I've finished my undergrad. I have a full-time job. I have a career that I'm headed down. But really, the discipline of your time
Mhm.
is just extremely crucial then, and it's crucial now. I love it. People say time is the only thing that there won't be any more of. That and land, I
Right.
guess.
Mhm.
So it's really important to discipline how you use your time. And particularly, again, even as Christians and Adventists in particular, honoring the Sabbath,
Right.
um, there was the temptation always to say, well, maybe I should study,
Friday night.
over Friday night, or usually not Saturday, but definitely Friday night was. But even in that, it's like discipline to your faith and to the promises that the Lord has, in honoring His time for rest as He initially created. So time was a really big one.
Yeah.
And then
And it's
really the
funny because you're
discipline.
talking about you set aside like when was this? Because you are the social butterfly. We were always at your house. Was this in the
This is probably
so
before
it's probably before that?
that.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
the early days of
The early days.
so I was 2 years in that program. So I was the first 2 years that I moved to Orlando,
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
and so there were not the social gatherings as they were in those early years. That's for sure.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so I mean that was just a really crucial time, and then really just having a plan. When I
Mhm.
think about discipline, I think about setting an agenda, having a plan, and then following through with that plan, and the
Yes.
discipline to follow through with
Completion.
that. Completion, yes, I love that. Was Eric Thomas says, execution is worship, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
have the plan and then execute on that plan. And whether that comes with entering the program, or having the idea or the plan around, I need to strengthen finance, that it all goes hand in hand in that context. So having a plan and sticking to it, a schedule, I kind of put
Mhm.
those hand in hand. If you've got to be somewhere at a certain time, And the social part, I love to talk and socialize and connect with people, but sometimes you just have to cut things off and keep it
Yeah.
moving because you have to get certain things done. And so, I think at a young age, and not that I was perfect at it, but early on in my career, you can have an idea of what you want to get done, but you can look back a year later and you not really accomplish those things.
Yeah.
And so creating those disciplines early to say, here's what I want to do, and then here's I can look back and say,
It was
okay, I was
done.
effective, I was done, yes. And that just builds. I'm sure you're the scientist. There's probably something that happens in your brain that
Hmm.
like lets off certain chemicals that just once you want to complete more often to get that feeling again.
Yeah, you get that rush, adrenaline, or just endorphins, just
Right.
accomplishment, and like you get to the point. Like there was a point in time where I knew what 5 minutes felt like. That's
Mm,
how in
mm,
tune to time I was.
mm,
I mean, I was teaching this past Thursday, and I left my phone charging, and my other computer's um, clock shut down. So now I had to depend on myself to monitor
mm,
the time. And there was a point in time where I was telling my students, "Okay, tell me what time it is," and and then I said to them, "Okay, I think it's 5 minutes past the time I told you originally to tell. So tell me every 5 minutes." And they're like, "How did you know?" Like it was exactly 5 minutes. They told me what time it was, and it was like 5 minutes after. It was like 4:26 and then 4:31 or something like that. Like, how
yeah.
did you know that? I said, I used to work with time all the
Right.
time, right?
All the time.
And so,
Right.
so yes, your body will become accustomed to it when you know how to manage your time wisely. And you are not the only one that says that. Every time I interview someone in terms of discipline, it's always about managing your time properly. That's one
Hmm.
of the main keys. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's important, and I think having the other discipline. I don't know if it's really uh, should be categorized as a discipline, but I think it's really important who you surround yourself with.
Hmm.
As I was just thinking about, um, uh, a shout out to Danique. uh, we were both in school at the same time,
Hmm.
and it allowed a discipline with accountability
Yes.
on we used we study together and just be able to have someone who's in that journey with you.
Right.
And I think that just goes a long way connected to the time component, but having people
Accountability
that you can
partners.
go right. Accountability, that's probably the key phrase there when it comes to that. So and I think there's an element of that exists for me today as well. When I think about even extension of discipline beyond those times, which is always being a learner. When I finished school,
Hmm.
it didn't mean that learning was over.
Right.
Whether it's what you're reading, uh, when you add kids, maybe the reading doesn't keep up as much. But both my wife and I have recommitted this year with a few goals to read a lot more books. So I mean, it's we're into February now, and I think I finished my third book this
Awesome.
this year. So the goal was two a
Wow.
month, so I'm ahead of that pace, which is good. But I mean, I think it's creating those type of disciplines to be continually learning, and even beyond. What I really loved about the transition from like educational environment to doing that while I was in work was the application. And so even though there may be something in a textbook, I could go pick up a book off the shelf, or now obviously everything is more digital. You can
Hmm.
either pull up a website or find a digital book or some type of author that has written content around something that allows you to go deeper in. So it's just kind of this mindset of continually learning and always kind of having an inquisitive mind, if you will, that kind of drives you to refine your craft and refine your expertise. That I think just goes a long way.
Yeah. That's so key. I'm reading two books right now, and I'm doing it mostly for work, but I've read so much in the past year. It's crazy. I
Hmm.
think I'm with you on that one. So,
We've had more
okay.
time too, so
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
pandemic has kind of created that. So.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What were your challenges in school? What were your
Yeah,
challenges? It could be whether, like what was the how high in math did you go, and what were your challenges?
yeah. So I mean, in college, undergraduate, it was more the basic accounting and
Mhm.
basic finance because I didn't have an accounting or
Math
mathematics
degree.
degree. I didn't have to do a lot of depth in the undergraduate school. My
Mhm.
finance degree was more investment finance
Mm.
focused. I had a lot of interest in investing then, particularly kind of the pivot, if you will, from a business standpoint was to educate myself a little bit more from a finance standpoint for investing purposes. So there was a relationship to that in like financial accounting and investments along those lines. So really when it comes to what most people think of, whether it's calculus if you're like a math major or the various levels of accounting, I didn't really have that per se,
Mhm.
but more so just multiple levels. And I don't even recall the different classes now. I should have thought of that one beforehand. But
No.
there was multiple levels in finance from the standpoint of investment background and education that we had to go through that even to this day, even we've had conversations around investment stuff all the time. It's still an interest. It's still something that, but it's more, the application has certainly been more so in the business environment. And,
Right.
and today, in hindsight, there's certainly more finance, or excuse me, accounting that if you wanted to truly apply it from a professional standpoint. So for those listening or for those that may introduce or have their kids watch this, really, if I could encourage anyone now, I would say, regardless of your major, if you're interested in business or something, owning your own business or even entrepreneurship, um, financial accounting,
Is
finance first, at least first and second level of accounting, and then anything that's beyond that. Even getting a minor or even majoring in accounting, I think is something that I would encourage anyone to do this time because
yeah.
just that foundation is just critical.
Yeah, a lot of our friends who are in business or in finance, they say business is just too broad. When you say I want to major in business, like what does that mean? But if you focus in on accounting and finance, then it will get you a long way. I've always heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean that to me is the general business studies should
Yeah.
be as deep as you can go in accounting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And regardless of what level of the organization that you're in, you will find application, every
Yeah.
time.
So what were
So
your challenges? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
no. So, I think one of the biggest things that I was challenged with, just kind of in that journey was, um, and maybe this is a little bit less direct, but it was getting beyond my fear of what was in front of me. So even,
Mhm.
going back to the finance side. So, um, even the idea of saying I'm going to get a finance focus as an MBA, I was afraid of it
Wow.
because just of historically just not feeling comfortable in that space. Um, but you just kind of face it head on,
Mhm.
and so much application. We'll maybe get down that path as well another time, but so much application of just conquering things that maybe you did not have as your that you were expert in, but you know being able to get over a challenge by facing it head on is, I think, something that all of us, even as adults or young adults, whatever category a 40-year-old guy is in now,
Yeah, what
is trying to face those challenges and fears head
head
on. And I think a
on.
lot of that has to do with perception and what people may think, and you've got to get beyond that. And if God has given you a vision, has given you some sort of perspective or calling, you have to go after it, regardless of what those challenges or roadblocks would look like.
Mhm.
And so, how did that take form? For me, it was in the space of particularly when it came into the actual workspace, is just building confidence in what you're being asked to do, or seeking out help and support, and surrounding yourself with people who are strong in those areas. I think a secondary side to that when it comes to challenges is um, being clear on really where your strengths lie.
Mm,
And even though I did take a focus from an accounting and finance standpoint to kind of face that one,
right.
there were certain points in my professional career that I had to take a step back and say, um, what am I good at,
Hmm.
and how can I put myself in the best environment to not only enjoy that, because this is like something I believe God gave me as a strength, um, and not just chase opportunities, but chase where
Wow.
God wants me or has created me for. And I've not really told this story necessarily publicly, but there was
Well,
a
it's
time
public
when
now.
I
It's
was,
YouTube. It's,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
let you
yeah,
know.
yeah, it's out, it's out. I mean, it's not like a, I don't want the world to know type of thing, but I just haven't talked about it much. But there was times when I took a demotion on paper from a title standpoint for the sake of being in a space that I knew I could do exceptionally well. I knew I would be in my own element. I would be happy with what I'm doing. Kind of going back to your, how do you fall in love, or how did you know you fell in love with your field of study? It was that time where I was self-reflective. I was able to talk to some people that I'd worked with, and really saw the challenge of my satisfaction in my work to be the catalyst to, really where I am today. To say it's
Mm,
not about a title, it's about where I'm able to do my best work. And if you're able to do your best work, opportunities will come.
yes, yes, yes. So even if you have to take a demotion to be in your best element, where you excel, so people could see you
Right.
excel, and then opportunities come.
Yeah, and I think
Wow.
part of it was, I didn't come up with the, well, let me take a demotion type of thing, but it
Yeah,
was more
but
about, understanding myself better, praying, asking the Lord to guide,
yeah.
and recognizing where you still needed opportunities to grow,
Mhm.
and not being caught up, because I'm a driven person, so I never really was concerned about um, what titles I did have, but I certainly wanted to progress professionally.
Right.
And so when I saw a gap, and I'm talking to people that I trusted, and they're saying, "Yeah, you haven't had experience here," or you should look for opportunities here, or Adam, you're really good at this, but you're over here in this space. And trying to be able to go through that type of exercise and make the changes, make the pivots, based upon both what you feel for yourself, as well as what the people you trust around you. Going back to even the comment around who you surround yourself with,
Mhm.
people that are going to be honest with you,
Yeah.
and provide you with the feedback that's necessary to pivot, and then continue to do work. There is nothing like doing good work and enjoying good work, where
Yes.
you're not stressed about getting up and going into the job,
Yeah.
or the people that you're working with, to know that
Peace.
you're celebrated, and that people, that you get a chance to do your best work. That to me is something that's really important for people as they kind of work their way through their professional lives, and really where they find their calling that God has found them, called them to be in.
Okay, so it seems like your challenges were getting past fears that you had, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So, like, what are your challenges now? So you are, well, tell the people what you do, and tell me what your challenges are.
Yeah, so you introduced it in the beginning. I'm the president and CEO of two hospitals in the Chicagoland western suburbs of Hinsdale and LaGrange. We're part of a system called Amita Health, where it's a joint operating model between Ascension Health, one of the largest Catholic healthcare organizations in the country, and Advent Health. based here or out of Orlando. Still feeling like I'm in Orlando, but basically being in a environment where we are providing predominantly inpatient-based healthcare to our community. So our hospitals combined, I'm the CEO of two hospitals. We have combined a little over 300 beds between our two hospitals, our two facilities. They're 2.5 miles apart from each other.
Mhm.
So I've been in this role for 7 months. Prior to that, I was the chief operating officer for 3.5 years of those same organizations. And so, um, one of the things that is unique to taking over as CEO in the middle of a pandemic
Oh my
is that,
goodness.
yeah, that's a whole nother story. You should do a series on leadership in pandemic, STEM leadership in pandemic. Tie the science
Yeah.
with the other side. So no, it's the challenges as it relates to being the CEO are not what I had ever envisioned.
Right.
So I was certainly interested in being a CEO one day, and you think about what that will look like, and it's not pandemic like is certainly not what I intended. And so really the challenges that exist today are really very relevant to what the country and the world really is experiencing,
Hmm.
and or maybe less experiencing than it is what we're watching unfold. So the last 7, 8 months, what are we, close to 10 months
Yeah.
of pandemic, have been about managing the ebbs and flows of volume of patients, COVID
Mhm.
patients within our hospital, providing the resources necessary for our teams to take care of them. And so that's just kind of the nuts and bolts of running the hospital. But really, one of the things that I was thinking about in preparation for this question was, and it's relevant regardless of pandemic or not, but it's culture. And so, as a CEO, I really believe my biggest responsibility, not only in kind of defining reality for my team, but really is the cultural ambassador, for the
Mm.
organization. And, that comes with setting vision and setting goals for the organization to achieve and for our teams to achieve. But really, it was great that our communities got behind our nurses as heroes. But I remember early on walking the halls of the hospital, and our nurses were afraid,
Mm.
rightfully, right? No one wanted to. It was still relatively unknown, um, and there was an importance to be present and to build culture. And that's a challenge, again, whether it's pandemic or not, but it's been escalated in this environment where you have the chance to lead by example, that you're going to be here on the front line supporting your team. I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor. I don't ever try and act like
Mhm.
I'm truly on the front lines. But being present, knowing that you're there with those frontline leaders, and I truly consider all of our, whether it's EVS, food service, nurses, techs, doctors, you name it. Um, it's all the same in the context of what are we developing, or how are we being intentional about what it means to work in our organization and in developing culture. So that's one big part that's kind of organizational
Yeah.
type challenge. Shifting a little bit to say, what are the personal challenges that I have in this role, really goes into how are you preparing yourself for what you don't know what's ahead. So
Ooh,
um, you get opportunities based upon how you've performed in the past, right?
pass. Yeah.
But I believe I don't want to call it sustainability, but that's the term that comes to mind. But your future really is about how well you are able to not necessarily anticipate, but a little bit is what do you anticipate, and how do you prepare your organization, for the future.
Mm.
And I have no idea what the pandemic is going to fully do to the healthcare industry, but
Yeah.
it is not lost on me that we will have opportunity one way or the other, whether we're forced or we're intentional, to learn from and be strategically different
Mm-hmm.
because of the pandemic in all the right
Wow.
reasons.
Wow.
And no, I don't have that solution, but
But
it's
that's a
something that I think
challenge.
about. It's a
Yeah.
challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a challenge. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do to support ourselves in that environment and at any level of professional life or industry that we're in. But that's a significant one that really stands out. And I think secondary to that is, how um, what is the avenue by which you will continue to take care of yourself in leadership? So we
Mm.
talk a lot about self-care these days because of pandemic stress and working from home and trying to find balance and things like that. And that's all very real. But there's been so many people, whether it's publicly or even in a more private sense, where people have either lost their lives, they've
Hmm.
passed away from health related reasons that I consider stress induced,
Stress induced. Yeah. Yeah.
or mental illness. How are you taking care of yourself mentally? I think these are challenges that are important. Again, when you think about just the lens of a CEO, not only as the individual, as Adam, but also how do I model this for my team so that they're taking care of themselves, so they can be the best they can be in their work. Um, Finding time to take time away from work.
Hmm.
And now with everything being virtual, there's always a temptation of, I could take a
Just
few days off,
stay.
but still,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, just stay. Like you're always working, and I think we're all wired, and you get to this point in leadership, you're wired to want to work, and it's just kind of who you are. But we have to find time to step away, to recharge, and again, going back to even the point of being your best self, that allows you to be your best. And so that's a challenge that I think that will always. There's not a destination there. It's just
Hmm.
a journey that you'll constantly be on, as a professional. Um, and then, really going back to the point of the industry is ever changing. There's multiple service lines, there's multiple departments, there's multiple impacts to the industry. How do you stay connected to the ever-changing environment? So not only, are you reading books, but you're keeping up with industry changes and experts that are talking about the shifts that are going on,
Right.
um, and putting yourselves in a position to be well informed and really lead beyond just your facility, but how do you influence from a standpoint of from an informed position, and so staying connected, having chances like this to interact with other professionals to challenge your thinking. I was introduced to a term recently that basically suggests that we should challenge our assumptions based upon what we thought to be correct.
Mm.
So basically, it allows yourself to free yourself from always trying to be right, and question everything that you thought would be right, to maybe say, well, maybe if I think about it differently, if I come from the place of I agree when I naturally would disagree, how does that improve or make outcomes better for us,
That's
as an
critical. That's
organization or for a
critical.
person?
That's critical thinking, Adam. Seriously, like that's thinking critically, and I think that's one of the major soft skills that are so necessary for everyone, especially with a STEM background.
Hmm.
And what I hear from you um is is basically you have to learn to adapt. Like you
Yes.
have to learn to adapt to all situations, and then you have to put your mind ahead before the problem happens
Right.
and try
Right.
to adapt to that problem. And if you can't be thinking backwards or thinking what you usually think, to do that.
Right.
Wow.
And it's not easy. I think our
No.
natural tendency is to just, I'll call it, go with what's easy or normal. Like you're again, you're the scientist. You can tell me, but it seems as though my brain is wired to go to
Safe.
what is safe and what is where there's confidence. Like you feel like you know, oh, that's it. That's the easy answer. It's kind of like those trick math questions when they say,
Hmm.
what do you see in front of you? And everyone says, well, I see this. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, if you really discipline yourself to think through challenges or think through things that look easy and
Hmm.
say, well, let's think about it a little differently. And that comes in a lot of different ways. Who you surround yourself with. So I'm building my team now. I've filled one of two positions that I had vacant coming into this role, including replacing my chief operating officer. And one of the things that I've talked about with our team is characteristics that we all have. Now I think of it. You love sports. I think of it like a basketball team. We don't need a team of all guards.
That's right.
So I need someone that can shoot.
Hmm.
I need someone that can rebound. I need a great ball handler. I need that lockdown defender. So you apply that to your professional work, and again, in the context of challenge, allow yourself to build a team that allows you to, again, perform, think, um, shift based upon different backgrounds, different educational experiences, different work experiences, different motivations,
Yeah.
different personality types.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes natural for us to want to go and find a person that seems like we connect well with, but sometimes it's just as important to find someone that's very different because it strengthens your team because it's a perspective that you don't have. And we certainly went through an exercise with our team to go through some evaluation and take some assessments to
Hmm.
see, what is the makeup of our team and where do we have gaps. And so
Right.
as we go through our process of filling out our team, we're looking for people that would fill that kind of gap. And it's not
Fill
easy
the
to
gap.
just call those out, but um, I think that helps to eliminate some of the natural challenge that will come, again, navigating a complex industry. And Chicagoland is very competitive as well from a healthcare standpoint.
Mm.
Having a strong team just becomes really important. So,
And you have to like respect the center and the guard. Yes, he's big and slow. Stop trying to make him skinny, shorter and fast.
right, right,
Because he's good at the perimeter blocking shots.
right,
Stop trying to change him. Like
right,
but you have to have a mindset of everybody has their different role and you respect each other's different role. I think because you know that they're filling that gap. I guess when you
right,
know when the gap is missing and you
right.
realize, man, I need to, that the fact that that gap is missing is hurting us, then you'll probably have more love and respect for that filler.
And
Yeah.
there's a I don't want to call it just leadership context, but it certainly is a discipline
Mhm.
of acknowledging that you you know don't have everything that
Right.
you need to make this team. Maybe LeBron is the exception. I feel like he's played every position, right?
Right. Shout
But
out to LeBron James.
yeah, right, right. So in the sports comparison, those are like unicorns. They never happen. They come once, whatever.
And
But
he still didn't win without two
yeah, you still
other
need help,
people.
right? You still need help, right?
Still need help.
Um, they just have the luxury of they could go add any one of
Yeah.
those positions, and
Yeah.
he could just
Yeah, he gets
But no, it's one of those things where sometimes you have to check yourself to say, I clearly don't know everything.
right.
And so not only do I not know everything, but where are my gaps? And now how do I go out and fill those gaps in, with the team that makes that critical. So, it's the challenges come in different shapes and forms, again, shifting a little bit to the kind of the professional sense of, COOs are doers,
Mhm.
CEOs are visionary, and
Visionary.
so there's your own shift that's a challenge that has to You have to go through, you have this tendency to still want to, all your career growing is about what are
Doing.
you accomplishing, what are you executing,
Wow.
and then the shift to the CEO I mean, you still have to get stuff done, but it's
Mhm.
certainly much more through people, and people are looking to you. I probably, if I, the most common question I had in my first few months was, "What's your vision for the organization?" Um, and so there's this shift that you have to go through professionally, even when you go into even, chief operating officer is certainly an executive role, but the
Mhm.
CEO has a different expectation from it. So there's this challenge there, this struggle that I tend to feel. I have a coach, and we talk about it all the time. Just the tendency to want to go back to what you know,
Yeah.
but you have to just fully lean into that shift that you need to make, because that's what the organization needs from you.
Word. I love that. So stop trying to be the COO, Adam. You're the CEO
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
You're the
yeah.
CEO now, and you're
Right.
trying to do COO things. Wow, that can
Yeah,
be
yeah,
that could be tough.
yeah. Right,
Wow. Okay.
right, right.
Last one. What's your favorite part? What's the favorite part of your career?
Hmm. I love that question because, when it goes back to the beginning when I was talking about service and, um, even hospitality is a term that I think of. These are the things that I love to do. My favorite part of my job is walking the halls of our hospital,
Wow.
saying hello to our
I
team,
believe that.
um, checking in on patients. Um, I like to round with I don't do it as much as I'd like to, but with our chaplains particularly, where we can go in and to a patient's room, or visit with family members and pray with them. Um, the merging of the interest that I had professionally from a business standpoint with
Faith based.
faith and my own desire to see um, people healed. And I mean that holistically. By far, my favorite thing to do is to walk the halls of our hospital and engage with people who are in that environment, whether they're delivering care or receiving care. A close second to that really just is particularly in this shift to CEO,
Hmm.
is the community and the physician side. So I kind of put those hand in hand. We have a medical staff that is a mixed model. So some are employed by our system, and some physicians are independent and they can choose where they want to go.
Right.
And so the physician side of it, to get a chance to understand what their needs are, there's a lot we have a lot of alignment between us, but also they rely heavily on us and we rely heavily on them, and to understand not only the professional need but also to make connections at a personal level, to understand the impact of a pandemic on their personal practice,
Hmm.
or the impact on family not wanting to bring home any COVID germs into the house, and how that's impacted them mentally, to be able to connect in a personal level. Those are really important parts to me. Um, and then there's just the nuts and bolts of the business.
Hmm.
I love. I kind of grew up in a planning and strategy space in the first half of my professional career, and I still love that part. Planning new business models and executing on those.
You help
Um, you
you
know,
helped us that like us with that in our church, strategic
oh
goals
yeah, that's
and
true. Yeah.
like even when you 4 years, I mean, and never mind, I'm not gonna talk
Shout
about
out
that. But
Patmos Chapel, right?
yeah, like, and I remember when we would get together as friends, you would have strategic goals for my family, and
Yep.
like you were always about strategy, strategic
Yep.
goals. I remember that. Yeah,
We still do that. We do our family one every November,
yeah.
December. We do them in our home as well. We're doing a vision boards with my kids, so we're starting them out early as well. So that's certainly something I enjoy and love doing it in the professional environment as well as the personal environment. But I skipped over the community part. So one of also the important parts of the role of the CEO is being the face of the community. I mean, you
Mhm.
are the organization's face, and I have been just blessed the last few months to connect with. Unfortunately, it's been virtually, so I would have loved to be in the office of a lot of these um, community organizations, businesses, where we're in partnership, in creating a space that allows our community to thrive. Whether you're a business with 2 employees or you're a hospital with 1,500 employees,
Mm,
it we all are contributing in a meaningful way, and being able to talk to community leaders, whether it's through Chamber of Commerce or different state and federal officials, House of Representatives, senators,
right.
both in state and federal levels, have just been eye-opening as it relates to the needs that are there and what is our responsibility to our community. And so not only are we there to help provide jobs and things like that, but we are there to obviously meet the health needs of the community. But our success is tied to the community's success. So as long as we thrive, our community can continue to thrive. And I love talking and engaging around what that opportunity looks like, again, going
Yeah,
forward in the future. And so, when it talks about what do you get excited about in the morning, it's really those elements. It's
those
walking the
elements.
halls. It's engaging with our physicians. Some days, unfortunately, you don't get the chance to do that. Sometimes it's just all office time and it's meeting back to back, and those are necessary parts of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an exciting time to be in healthcare. It's a challenging time to be in healthcare. But I couldn't think of anything better to be involved in, and really thankful and humbled to have the opportunity to serve as the CEO of these hospitals. And I continue to learn and have fun and share my story, like in settings like these.
Yeah, Adam, what you sound like you're doing is you're telling me that you're bringing yourself to this job. Like
Absolutely,
everything you
absolutely.
just said is who you are. Like I love
And
walking in the halls. I love being with the people. I love helping my community. That's what you do.
yeah, yeah,
That's who you are. And you're like, so it seems like you're saying, know what your skills are and bring your holistic, your whole self to your career. I love that.
yeah. I couldn't echo that more, Maya. If this audience or if there's young people listening, find your passion and
Yep.
put yourself into that,
Mhm.
and the outcomes will come. If you have goals to be a CEO of something one day, or build your own company, or scientists like Dr. Byfield, teacher, entrepreneur. Yeah, she's got it all. She's triple double here. But put yourself into it. Maya is fully authentically herself as well, and it shows. And I think that's what we all can recognize early on, that we don't have to put on a show for anyone else what we think people want. Be yourself. People want you,
That's right.
and that's that's something that I think we should all take away with and continue down that path.
Yeah, we'll close on that, guys. What an awesome interview.
Thank you,
Woo!
Maya.
Thank you
This has
so
been
much,
great.
Adam. This was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on Phenomenal STEMist. I am the Phenomenal STEMist, and so is he. So is he. Good evening, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye bye.